Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella said, hey, we've seen 2 years of digital transformation in 3 months. I think that was the quote. And others are saying, it's really difficult to maintain an enterprise culture and community when people can't be face to face. And I'm going to do shout outs to some of our participants today. I think Grace Duffin asked this question as well. So how are each of your organizations striving to keep your cultures cohesive as you digitally transform? Shawn, I'm going to go back to you. We'll go in inverse order here. So as you're doing all that digital information transformation, how are you maintaining culture?
Yeah, so that's a difficult thing. I'll say that for my particular team, I have a team of around 20 people that are distributed globally all throughout the world. And a lot of these people already work in a remote capacity. So I would say that for my team in particular, it wasn't as difficult for us to make the transition of how are we going to collaborate when we're working from home, because a good percentage of my team already does that. But I'd say more broadly across our business unit, where you've got thousands of people, and more broadly across VMware, there's tens of thousands of people, there definitely was a circumstance of how do we stay connected, how do we collaborate? And of course, there are lots of capabilities that you can do around online meeting technologies. Oops, sorry. I've got a technology thing happening in my house right now. You certainly can have people collaborate on web meetings and those types of things. I found over the last couple of months, there's been a lot of a balance that's happened there, because the initial sort of knee-jerk reaction to we're distributed, we have to collaborate, I think caused a lot of people to over-rotate on too many meetings and too many, web video conferences, that kind of stuff. So I've tried to spend a lot of time with my team to understand what works for them and say, hey, if you don't want to be on camera, we don't have to be on camera. Let's just talk over the phone. So I think it's really important to actually talk to the people in your organization and find out what works for them. And if they don't want to be on camera, then don't make them get on camera. So I found that's actually helped quite a bit.
All right, thanks for that. Let's go to Tapi. What about Kraft Heinz? How are you balancing culture and technology?
Yeah, and I think I can even build upon what Shawn has said. So there are a lot of similarities there, right? I think it's the appreciation that culture evolves. It's not static. It's actually quite dynamic, in the same way as like your children evolve. And yes, they are your family, but the way you all operate as a family changes. And again, if you were to move from one country to another country, even for me, moving from England to America, I recognize that my own culture changes to fit my new environment. So that appreciation of the fact that culture is an evolving thing. And again, specifically, I would say taking the best of the physical space into the virtual space. When you move house, you should really kind of go through everything you have in your house, get rid of the things that shouldn't come to the new place. And that's what this has allowed us to do. Take what was great in the physical and then also create new things in the virtual. That will make us more robust and like future-proof.
Okay, thanks. We're coming back to this question again, though. Todd, thanks for that topic. Todd.
Yeah. So I appreciate Shawn and Tapi's observations. I would say this, Michael. I think culture is an important word that has been understood as it relates to what it actually is for a company. So culture, in my definition, is it's a shared set of values that an organization holds. I think sometimes we misinterpret that as like, a lot of happy hours or sort of the hygienic variables of what you physically see. But it's actually, in my view, culture is something deeper. We have a set of values that we hold as an organization, and we live those values together. And that is revealed through vulnerability, that is revealed through conversation, that is revealed in moments of declaration of values. I think, cultures are being tested because employees are really wanting to know, where do we stand? As we look at sort of structural racism in this country, as we look at COVID, companies are being pressure tested. And I think there's a sort of this era of transparency that's emerging around like, where are we actually? And I think companies that have strong cultures, as defined by a really strongly articulated and lived set of values, I think we'll find ways to manifest those values, live those values in a virtual environment. Companies that sort of haven't done the work, or it's on the wall in the break room, but we haven't really thought about whether or not it means something to us, are undoubtedly scrambling. But arguably that maybe scrambling in the physical environment, scrambling in the virtual environment to sort of figure out who are we and what do we stand for. But I think increasingly employees that feel like they can come to a place, associate their work product with a place that has these values that matches to theirs, they will continue to have strong cultures. It'll look different, but they will have strong cultures.
Right. So it isn't so much about physical space or digital space. There are underlying factors. We could do a whole hour just on this. Let me go to Shivani. Thanks, Todd. I know there's a question, Shivani, if we can't meet around the water cooler, can we maintain the culture? Can you build on what you've heard so far?
Yeah, no, as our physical boundaries are disappearing, companies are literally risking the work culture becoming 24/7, right? Workers are putting up psychological barriers and boundaries at times to protect their well-being, to kind of keep their company demands from becoming all-encompassing. How many of us have actually checked emails or texts at dinner table, right? I'll be the first one to put my hand up. So one of the things that I have instituted, and I have teams all across North America, I have instituted with my teams are, when COVID first hit, there were a lot of happy hours. I cannot tell you the number of bottles of wines that I have completed in the first month. Then after that, we also went into, we instituted something called Wellness Wednesdays. This is because we started to recognize that people were taking so much of stress while being in front of computers. So from encouraging to having remote yoga sessions and headspace apps and encouraging people to take more vacation. That's another thing as well, right? Part of the culture is now moving towards, you've got to be on 24/7, you've got to constantly be working. So I think though that the softer side of culture and encouraging people to actually slow down, appreciate the finer things, even though we are physically not together. I think those are some of the things that we've been doing at Accenture.